discuss that for a moment? Lesson 30. Lesson 30 is, we call it subtle anatomy. Throughout, starting with the introduction workshop, and throughout the course, I mentioned a couple of times that originally, yoga does not have physical anatomy, even though that is a large part of the curriculum of most professional yoga courses. Strange, you would think, because yoga is exercising. So it is important that you know, especially as a teacher, about muscles, about joints, about bones, about body parts, etc. That is correct if yoga is reduced to just physical exercise. If you go to some physical education academy to become any kind of sports teacher, indeed, physical anatomy is important. Originally, though, yoga is not considered physical exercise or physical education or physical sports in any kind of form. Although yoga does contain physical exercise, physical activity. But that's only a small part of the entirety of yoga, and it has a very distinct purpose. The purpose of that exercise is to control, and through control of the physical body to come to control of the mind, and through control of the mind to come to control of what? Energy. Now, if you have engaged in study of philosophy, spirituality, you have come across the idea of spirit. You have come across the idea of soul. Every spiritual, the word carries the meaning spirit, spiritual. Every spiritual practice and philosophy is based on the same foundation which is that a human being, in the first instance, is pure energy. That energy is not well explained most of the time. Because what you hear is dogmatic. What you hear sounds mysterious. But in a practical sense, it's hard to grasp, hard to understand. Also because human beings have a limitation in perception. Gross elements, material elements, are very easy to perceive. You can see the floor. You can touch it. You can, depending on what kind of floor it is, you can smell it. You can hear sound. But spirit is energy, and energy is very difficult to perceive if you don't know where to look. And that is the big stumbling block throughout the centuries of transferring knowledge, the big stumbling block for people to understand what it really, in a practical sense, is about. Without the dogma and without the mystery, which is confusing people even more. So to understand energy, from the beginning we have drawn your attention to what you feel. In lesson 1, we did a tree pose, and I told you to stand still. And when you were done, I told you not to immediately do another exercise, but first, just close your eyes and feel. What you feel, you can describe, but in the end, it's energy. Not only that, you have brought that energy under control, because what you feel feels different from your normal condition. And you have brought about that difference by doing something very simple but very special. Standing still, as opposed to movement. So the first part of the booklet, Ajita's way of introducing energy, we have done that over and over from various angles. And my goal is always to do that as practical as possible. So what we're going to do next is to look at anatomy from a yoga point of view. That is not based on the physical body, because the physical body is only actually a small part. Thank you. Where were we?
Physical body is only a small part of the...
Yes. Yes. The body is, thank you. The physical body is only a small part of the entire body that yoga sees. And the physical body is actually the result of a condensation process that we see all over the universe. The universe in itself can be explained based on the model that we are now going to draw on the board. So you have microcosmos, you have macrocosmos. The macrocosmos is the cosmos, the universe in its entirety. which contains many smaller bodies in the form of planets, in the form of galaxies, in the form of planets, but also in the form of organic life. The underlying principle is all the same. That is where funny things come from, saying, I am one with the universe, we are all one. Many people say that in a mysterious way, but actually it's true. We're all made from the same energy, from the same source. Ajita came up with a model that is based on the yin-yang model and then continues to evolve into an endless cycle, in fact. I'm half blind. Purusha, of course. Purusha. Purusha is soul. It is the origin of you. It is, because it is energy, it is eternal, and it is unbreakable. Not only Eastern philosophers, the rishis or yogis, came to that conclusion, also Western scientists came to that conclusion. Once you understand that, the idea of reincarnation does not seem so strange anymore. Because your physical body, which is somewhere below here in this whole model, which is caused, in fact, by the condensation that starts from here, physical body is very limited and breakable. But that energy that has led to the manifestation of the physical body is eternal and unbreakable. And that implies that when the physical body dies, that energy remains. And you find in all the burial rituals across the world from every culture and continent that there is a respect for this energy, that this energy indeed rises up. And in Christianity, you call that, just a couple of days ago, I think, or just recently, we had a holiday. Ascension, is it called Ascension? Where the spirit rises up. That is the process of the physical body dying and the spirit, the underlying energy basically, rising up, escaping that physical body. And the belief is that sooner or later, that energy will again manifest into a physical body and continue its evolution, its evolutionary process. That is where, in all religions, the idea of charity comes from. The idea of doing good and avoiding doing bad comes from. Because what you do in this life affects your next life. If you grow a lot in this life, you will build on that in the next life. Evolution does not make you go back. You always go forward. So you try in this life to reach as much as possible based on yama and niyama. so that in next life you have an advantage, a more solid foundation. When you understand that also, then you realize that everybody, every individual has their own process and therefore should never compare with other people. We have a tendency to say, oh, those people, they are lucky. They are so comfortable, so wealthy, so privileged. I'm not. I'm poor, I'm pitiful, I'm suffering. So philosophy comes with the idea that if you keep evolving, you will improve. You will also reach that stage that you admire in people who have evolved already and a level which you want to achieve too. What it means is, do not compare. Just focus on yourself and your own process. Because that comparison that we make is only a distraction. If you look at people around you, you see that because we are always distracted, we actually do not evolve that much in one lifetime. And that's why Buddhism says a human soul, Purusha, has to live through 1,000,000 lives for that complete evolution to take place. What evolution? From the bottom back to our origin, back to our soul. That is what liberation means. That is what becoming a saint means. So, due to natural forces in the universe, energy always has a tendency to condense. The universe itself is the product of that condensation. Remember? First there was the word Om, pure sattva. As long as there is pure sattva, there is no manifestation into matter. There is no condensation. But the moment the harmony is disturbed, the downfall starts. In the Bible it's called the downfall. And the downfall started with what? With Adam and Eve committing sin. But what is Adam and Eve? Is that a man and a woman? No, it is yin and yang, Shiva and Shakti. And there you see the connection between Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy. Only we interpret it in the wrong way. Both sides interpret the philosophy in the wrong way. The story of Adam and Eve committing sin is the story of the harmony becoming disturbed and the downfall starting. The downfall of what? Energy starts to condense. Energy becomes gas, and further condensing it then becomes liquid. Further condensing it then becomes solid material, including the physical body. The soul is the blueprint of your true self. It contains all the royal characteristics. It contains your true characteristics, your true character. True character that most people have no idea about. What we think is ourself is based on what we learn in this present life, based on what our parents tell us, based on the culture that we are born in, based on our education. we identify with that and are incapable of reaching into that source, into that blueprint where our true foundation is located. Sounds very complicated, but in practical terms, as a yoga practitioner, increasing your perception, your sensitivity, you will see that throughout the years that follow, you more and more become conscious of your true self. And that is what will change your life. Slowly but certainly, you transform. Regardless of what culture you are from, regardless of how your parents brought you up, regardless of what education you have enjoyed. To be able to do that, we must do something unnatural in the universe. And that is reverse that process of downfall, that process of condensation, which in the end brings us where? In Muladhara Chakra. The lowest chakra at the bottom of your spine, where fear is located. It explains why everybody's life is dominated by fear. Fear, worry, doubt. It determines your life. It paralyzes our lives. By going against the natural condensation, energy rises up. And in the crown chakra, you find qualities that allow you to deal with fear. Courage is not something that you are born with. Courage is also not something that you can learn from your parents or from a teacher. Courage is something that you naturally acquire by energy rising up and awakening the qualities in the crown chakra that you possessed already but were dormant because they were not fueled by energy. Because of lack of energy, they were dormant. So here you have Purusha, condensation, the downfall starts because you ate an apple behind a tree. Just kidding. You commit sin, your harmony is disturbed, condensation. Okay? Then you have the next that's Avyakta. Now, Avyakta is a very funny concept. First, the translation of Avyakta, unmanifested self. I asked Ajita, please explain unmanifested self. And he said, Ron, I asked my own masters what it means. And I came to the conclusion that the concept of unmanifested self is so vague, better not even try to rationalize it. But if Purusha is the blueprint of your total self, Avyakta is an intermediate step, in my opinion, that leads to the manifestation of that blueprint. And that brings us to the next. And that's Atman. Now, if you have a little bit of knowledge about Buddhism, you may not have heard about Purusha and Avyakta, but you probably have heard about Atman. Because this is where the human being, at least to some extent, starts taking shape from that energy that is condensing. There is an interesting anecdote about Atman, and it is about the Buddha. The story goes that Buddha was proclaiming that as a spiritual practitioner, do not pursue Atman. Because as long as you keep pursuing it, it will not manifest. As long as you keep thinking about it, it will not manifest. What are we talking about here? Subtle matter. So for most people, even scientists, very difficult to grasp. So one day, people who were skeptical about the Buddha, they visited him and they challenged him. They told him, Buddha, what is Atman? And his answer was, Anatta, 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 which means no Atman. But you know, many spiritual teachers, they speak in riddles. They think, they just throw out a little bit of information and then you have to contemplate the meaning behind it. I'm not like that, because I hate it. I want things to be clear, in a practical sense and without doubt. But most spiritual teachers, when you ask them a question, they give you some kind of mysterious answer and you're supposed to figure out yourself what it means, which often leads to more questions than answers. The Buddha was just like that, and he just said, Anatta, Anatta, Anatta. And they thought, what the hell is this? And they started proclaiming Buddha to be a fraud, to be a fake spiritual leader, because he doesn't understand Atman. Atman is the self, with a capital S. That means that the blueprint, which went through a transformation stage, here has the possibility to express the true characteristics. So here the manifestation occurs. But most people, subject to the condensation that has brought them to the bottom of their existence, they do not manifest their true self, or self with a capital S, simply because their energy is lacking. We continue to compress, and here you have Karana Sharira. And now we are entering familiar terrain. Sharira is body, Karana is causal. The causal body. The causal body is the crown chakra. So there is no physical manifestation yet in terms of skin, bone, organs, and what have you. A Karana Sharira, crown chakra. Then it continues. And you have, what does it say, Sthula? Sukshma. Sukshma Sharira. Sukshma Sharira is a Ajna Chakra, the mental body. And within the mental body, You know already, you're familiar with that concept already. Yeah, Sthula Sharira. Which is the physical body. And the physical body contains 5 chakras, from the throat down. Karana Sharira is the crown chakra. Sukma Sharira, the mental body, Ajna chakra, containing the intellect, the mind. And then Sthula Sharira is all the physical aspects of the human being. So, in the booklet, the yin-yang model stops here, but it doesn't stop here because you have the throat chakra, then you have the heart chakra, then you have Manipura chakra, Svadhisthana chakra, and Muladhara chakra. Now what is interesting about this is, you can continue all the way down into the microcosmos. And not only that, you can continue all the way up into the macrocosmos. This model is endless. There is a very interesting video on YouTube. It's called The Power of 10. That is a little bit this idea that there is no end. If you take a super microscope and you zoom in to your skin and then by the power of 10 increase the zoom, it's like entering into a universe, but a micro universe. And that's what they do in that video. It actually starts the opposite. There are 2 people lying in the grass in a park, and then they start zooming out by power of 10, and they go into the universe. And you see that no matter how big the scale or how small the scale, you see the same pattern again and again. So it's mind-boggling if you contemplate that. Our galaxy has billions of stars. Many of those stars have planets, like our sun has planets. On that planet, in our case, we don't know yet about others, there is life. So you have cosmos within cosmos within cosmos. Your body is a cosmos of billions upon billions of cells that each in their own are a cosmos. So it's mind-boggling. You can go down into a super micro scale and see the same kind of structure. You can go up into a super big scale and you see yet again the same kind of structure. And that is the human being, basically. But it also explains why people who understand this, they talk about the universe as a being. A being with an intellect, with a consciousness, that of which we are all part and with which we are all connected. Many people who observe what is happening in society, especially modern society, which is always in a rush and very superficial, very materialistic, those people say we are disconnected. Disconnected from what? Disconnected from the process that the universe is in. We are so busy with all kinds of superficial aspects, material aspects, which are totally at the bottom of this whole evolutionary process, that we are totally disconnected from everything that is up here. That is why we live in a world full of conflict, full of cynicism, full of unbelief. It explains basically, if you look at it from this point of view, it explains everything that is wrong in the world. We're so limited in our perception that we constantly create disharmony with the world around us, and the world around us with us. That's why so many people are so unhappy, so stressed, so restless, and eventually manifesting into disease, physical disharmony. If you understand this a little bit, it might actually make it easier to deal with ego. It might actually help us to be at least a little bit humble. It might also help us to stop being judgmental about other people. Because we're all the same. When we are judgmental about somebody's shortcomings, it's simply because we don't realize that we have our own shortcomings, and that other people might be judgmental about that. That is why in spiritual circles there's lots of talk about heart, about love. Try to look at other people based upon yourself and your own imperfections. Then it will be much easier not to be judgmental. On the contrary, when you can see it through the prism of yourself, your judgmental attitude turns into compassion. We're all brothers and sisters. We truly are. From the same source, from the same matter. Questions? Okay. In short, everything is energy. Energy is your most precious asset, your most important asset. If your energy is poor, your functioning is poor. Poor energy leads to more condensation, more manifestation in Muladhara chakra, the lower chakras, the lower emotions and desires manifesting. One of the components of all spiritual practice is the creation of energy. How? Through practice. Asana, energy control pranayama, meditation. On top of that, routine, daily routine. Upon that, creating the circumstances in which you can thrive without distraction. Chapter 1 of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika gave us all those instructions. Food, very important. The fuel of our functioning. That is why food generally is rather austere, as pure as possible, because in that form it provides us with the most energy possible. So all the things that you do and all the things that you learn is not designed to distinguish yourself from other people, or to feel better than other people or superior than other people. It's designed for yourself to function at the highest level possible. And interestingly, when you experience that functioning on higher levels, the sattva harmony that occurs at certain moments, it becomes very natural that you want more of it. And that is when you start pursuing a course like this, for example. That is when you start pursuing learning more about food. Many people become vegetarian or even vegan. That is when you start becoming interested about spiritual practices. And you start searching. You become a wanderer, searching for knowledge, searching for insight, which, as you have noticed, is very hard to obtain. I know from experience, many years doing this course, that before people end up here, they've already explored many other kinds of practice. They have found something there, but always left with questions that remain unanswered or led to more questions. It's a natural process. And in that sense, we come back to the last niyama, which is surrender. Things will follow their path as they are intended by the universe. Sometimes you go astray, a little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. Sometimes you fall back into old behavior, old habits. You always come back to that path in the middle, because it feels like home. Home is where the heart is. You know that expression? For many people, they build a home and they make it very cozy, and then they put a blue Delft tile on the wall in the kitchen or in the toilet that says, home is where the heart is. But that is not what home is where the heart is means. Once you connect with your heart, your home can be anywhere. You start following your heart. If that brings you to the moon, you could live on the moon. As long as you can pursue what your heart gives you. Follow your heart's content. Dharma, we call that in yoga. If that brings you to the South Pole, then you would be able to live there without complaint. Because as long as you can keep yourself busy with that, what you are passionate about, what makes your heart beat, it can be anywhere. And that home that you build with very nice comfort and very cozy and what have you, with the tile on the wall that says home is where the heart is, it can be hell. Because it could possibly be the place where you are not able or allowed to pursue your heart's content. It could become your prison. The home is where the heart is really esoteric, is not about building a house, although that is important. Hatha Yoga Pradipika also addressed that issue in the first chapter. But it means that if your heart brings you outside of the safety of that home, you would be able to adapt. Like the foreigners in this class have basically done something like that by leaving home and moving to another part of the world and be happy there. Often feeling not wanting to go back where they came from. Good. Questions? Okay, let's have a short break then.